Welcome to The Art of Selling Art. My name is Jason, and I started this program back in 2018 to help early and mid-career artists understand the foundations of business so they could sell more art. This is the TASA Masterclass. It's actually part 4 of the Masterclass. So if you are arriving here without watching parts 3, 2, 1, go back and watch them because each of those parts are significant to how we got here. So we started with what is sales and we talked about the customer journey. Part 2 is talking about marketing campaigns, which I know you want to jump into right away, but you won't get the most out of it if you don't understand who your customer is. Then we talked about messaging, because once we market to people, they're going to arrive at our store, at our website, whatever, and we need to know how to speak to them so that they can jive or vibe with our work and then buy it. So now we're going to talk about pricing. And next to marketing, pricing is the next biggest or most asked question from artists. How do I price my work? And again, at this point, if you haven't watched parts 1, 2, 3, go back and do that. Okay. So getting started on pricing, let's start from the top. Again, what I get from most artists is, how much should I charge for my work? And this question is not accurate enough to really serve you. So what I want you to understand is that price is relative. There is no such thing as too high or asking for too much money, but there is a such thing as asking for too little. All right. So I'll give you a story from my own story. So I went to an architecture firm, or super high end. They build art that people live in, basically. Beautiful homes, 5 million plus to get one. And I went through the whole PR process of figuring out who runs that and then getting a meeting in front of them, all things I talk about how to do in TASA. But I got in front of this guy, one of the partners. We sat down. I had a physical portfolio and a digital portfolio to be able to show more. And we had a great time talking about the artwork and the stories. When we got to the point about pricing, I had already practiced this in my head. I knew what I was going to ask for, and I knew that what I was asking for might sound like a lot, but there's the value and I have the career to back it. Okay, so my average sales around $7,500. I told him this. And his face kind of fell a little bit and he flipped back through the yard and was like, I really, really like it and blah, blah, blah. But the artwork we place in our clients' homes starts about $200,000. And our client would likely not see the value in your art at that price. Okay, so I came in thinking that I was asking a lot. Okay, well, I was asking a fair amount, but that fair amount was high. And then I found out that they only do these giant pieces. Not the giant pieces, because size and price are not correlated, but the higher price. So what I'm telling you is that price is marketing. Okay, price is marketing, meaning that the price you set for your art should correlate to the values of your buyer. Again, that's part of the customer avatar. Okay, so you will have difficulty selling a $200 product to someone who is looking for a $10,000 piece of art, okay? Because they see value attached to that price point. I'll give you an example from me personally, and I'll give you this example of this sale that I had. So personally, I'm looking at art, and when I'm looking at art, I'm looking at the price range of like $1,500 to $4,000. And I grew into this. The better my art business did, the more I was able to buy on art, and I was able to grow into buying pieces that I appreciated but couldn't afford before. But I realized one day when I was walking through an art fair that I wasn't even noticing the pieces that were like $300. And it wasn't because the art was bad. It just didn't enter my frame of mind as being valuable. And here I am, I'm an artist. I grew up selling those stuff and now I'm selling this stuff. And I recognize the growth pattern and the struggle and how we feel about our art. And I wasn't noticing this stuff, okay? Because I hit a point where my pricing bubble is this. Now, this gentleman, Gavin, and his family walked through this art fair that I was at. And there were artists there with huge booths that look like freaking Instagram feeds and with tens of thousands of followers. And Gavin came back to my booth, bought this piece, which was $4,500, and ended up buying another piece later that was a little bit larger and much more blue.
It's the one, oh gosh. Oh, I love it.
And I asked him when I delivered the piece, because it was a local buyer at a local fair, why he picked my work out of the other things. Because I had like 7 pieces showing, very gallery-like, versus the other booths that had a lot of stuff showing. And he said that the price that I had on my work told him that there was value here, right? So the price indicated value. And I'll pull this up. I had someone else very recently come to me and say the same thing. So here's another person in my DMs about NFTs, saw my work, it's listed at 3 ETH, and he says it right here. 3 ETH is a sign of quality. Like the price itself signified quality. So price is marketing. You're looking for, you need to correlate the price of your work with the market you intend to reach. Now I want to caveat right here saying that there is nothing better about charging $10,000 for a piece of art over charging $300. As long as you can reach your target market, both of these are viable business, or could be part of viable business plans, leading you to enough sales to survive. But you have to understand that you can't market a $300 piece to a $10,000 buyer, and vice versa. All right? Instead of asking, how much would people be willing to pay for this thing you made? Okay? And I know you've asked that question because I've asked that question in the past, and I hear people ask that question all the time. How much would so-and-so be willing to pay for X? Don't ask this question, because this question creates the race to the bottom. It forces people to undercut prices in order to get the person who's willing to pay the least amount possible. Instead, I want you to say, how much is my art worth to my ideal customer, the person from your avatar? So again, if you haven't watched that yet, go back and watch it. But how much is my art worth to my ideal customer? So let's do an exercise. I want you to identify a revenue goal. So pause this, identify a revenue goal. It could be 5,000, it could be 1 million. There's no wrong goals. There's some unrealistic ones, but there's no wrong ones. Personally, I try to hit 100,000 in sales every year with the art business. So in 6 months, $50,000 is the number I chose. And then I want you to identify 3 ways that you can make that happen. Okay, hopefully you're pausing this and doing this exercise. For me, how can I make 50 grand? I could sell 10 pieces for 5,000. I could sell 25 pieces at 2,000. I could sell 50 at 100. And you have to choose from here the one that feels good, the one that is most aligned with who your target market is and where your work is right now. And then I want you to ask yourself, how can I provide 5 times more value than I'm asking in order to make that an easy purchase? Right? I had a collector, end of 2022, we did a commission in France for this work from Normandy. And I came back and I got the sale, right? And at the end of it, I was like, thank you for buying art from me. Again, he's one of my biggest collectors. And he said, you make it easy, right? It's easy. It's basically exactly how he said it too. And the thing that to take away from that is that if you can create and instill enough value in your work on top of the price, then it's easy for the buyer to make that decision. How do you provide so much value without increasing your price? You can come up with a lot of ways to add value to your work without adding cost to you. For instance, if you start at the top, like what is the most valuable thing I can give to my new art collector? I could give him a second piece of art, right? But that's not a viable way of doing business, because then you'd have to sell twice as much to reach your goal. So what can I do? What can I do? Perhaps I can offer him a discount on his next purchase, right? And make that limited, of course, because the why now principle. But that's easy, right? Or you could give him a second piece of art that doesn't cost you anything. For instance, my certificates of authenticity are like little pieces of art. And every time a collector gets one, they say, oh, wow, this is great. because it's made on this custom cotton paper, deckled edges. It has the artwork printed on it. It's signed in gold. All these little things, right? Another thing you could do is offer to install the pieces of art. And if you're selling online, it's not really viable for you to fly around the country and install pieces of art for people, right? So what is the next thing you could do? Perhaps you could arrange installations for people, right? So you could find a local installer for the collector so that they have it all taken care of. And that's an easy way to add value, and because you're saving them time to your purchase or to the sale that you get, and so on and so forth. So start at the top. What is the best thing that you think you can offer? And then go down until something makes sense. Okay. And once you have that, then you are telling your collector about value adds. By the way, discounts is not a value add. Okay. So do not off the bat offer discounts, because they are going to eat at your bottom line. They're going to make you feel like crap because you sold your work for cheaper than you wanted. And they don't actually work as incentives. So that's pricing method number one. Pricing method number two is the SWOT analysis. Okay. SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Okay. This is what you would do if you were a small business. Well, you are a small business, but no one's taught you to do this. So a SWOT analysis for you as an artist is you going out and finding all the artists who are like you, meaning they have been in their career for as long as you have, they create the same caliber of work as you. And this one is the one where you have to be very critical with yourself and estimate your caliber or where you are in your art stages so that you can price accurately. So time in business, caliber, accolades or awards and publications, pedigree, all of these things. So you take all of that and you detail it for yourself, and then you find artists who are like you, and then you find out how much they are pricing. And you don't, because I get these emails all the time, you do not fish for pricing. You don't pretend to be a buyer so that they can give you a price for their work. Instead, just ask them. If I got an email from one of those artists who are fishing me and said, just, hey, I'm trying to price my work, and where are you at? Because I think we're in the same place and I don't want to undercut your business. I would have been like, yeah, this is how I price my work. Thank you, dude. Great way to go about it. Instead, I get phishing emails. So please don't do that. Anyway, you do this research, you get like 20 plus people who are pricing their work and selling their art. Excuse me. And your goal is to be priced in the top 10% of that market, of that stratification of the market. And the reason you want to be in the top 10% and not in the top 15, because statistically, anything below 10% is going to facilitate that race to the bottom. Okay, so be in the top 10%. And the immediate reaction is that having higher prices is going to give you a higher perceived value, because price is marketing. It's also going to attract higher value collectors, and it will help you avoid that no resentment line in the sand where if you sell your work for below that, you just feel terrible inside. Okay, I've done that. We've all done that. We don't want that. So pricing your work appropriately in a competitive market will help you avoid that line in the sand. But less people will buy your work, right? This is the fear. Less people will buy your work. And this is not necessarily true, but let's do the math on it anyway. Let's say you do art sales, or you do an art fair fairly regularly, and you do $300 a piece and you sell 15 pieces. Okay, so you make $4,500. Let's say you raise your price to almost double, or a little more than double, and you get less sales. So you get 9 instead of 15. You know where I'm going with this. You still make more money. So you raise your prices, you may sell less, you still make more money. You raise your prices, you may sell more because you are now attractive to a whole audience who is looking for something at that price point. This is actually, ask me one day in our social media where this really changed how my whole business worked. Prices marketing is the lesson that changed and that made me into a career artist. So the next section is asking for the sale. And we're going to combine our pricing, we're going to combine our our messaging and our customer avatar in order to ask for the sale. So come back for section 5. If you've made it through section 4 because pricing is the juicy subject, then go back and watch 1, 2, and 3. It'll be worth your time. And you'll come to section 5 better prepared to ask for the sale.